Tonight, this is a small film you can fall asleep to, a gentle documentary about the overnight economy, the quiet work that happens when most people are offline, when the streets are calmer, when the phone stops buzzing, and the day loosens its grip. There won't be any big lessons or fast conclusions, just a slow walk through the systems that keep ordinary life feeling smooth in the morning. If you're listening closely, you'll notice how many things are quietly reset while you rest. Shelves filled again, floors cleaned, deliveries made, machines checked, lights tested, coffee prepared, doors unlocked. And if you're not listening closely, that's completely fine. This is made for attentional drift, for that soft fading in and out where a sentence catches your ear and then the next one turns into background, like rain on a window or tires on distant pavement. You don't have to remember anything. You don't have to follow every detail. You can just let the words pass through and let the night do what it does. So settle in, get comfortable, and if sleep arrives, let it. This is the overnight economy, calm, steady, and mostly unseen. If your attention wanders, that's part of the design. You can listen closely and follow each detail, or you can let the words soften into background texture, something gentle in the room while you rest. This isn't a test, and it isn't a lecture. There's nothing you need to catch to make it work. Some parts will hold your focus for a moment, and some parts will pass like quiet traffic in the distance. That's normal. That's welcome. If you notice you've drifted, if you realize you missed a minute or two, there's no need to rewind. The overnight economy will still be there, moving at the same calm pace. Just come back to the sound of the voice. Or don't. Either way is fine. This is a place where drifting is allowed. Here's the gentle idea we'll carry through the whole night. Daytime is the performance. It's the part we all see, the open doors, the bright aisles, the full shelves, the polished floors, the working elevators, the clean counters, the steady lights. It's the moment when everything is meant to appear simple and ready. Overnight is the reset. Not dramatic, not flashy. Just patient, practical work, done out of sight, in back rooms and loading bays, in quiet hallways, on empty streets. A city turning its pockets inside out, shaking out the crumbs, and putting everything back where it belongs. And this episode is about the reset, the unseen shift that hands the world back to morning. At 2:17 a.m., the city is quieter, but it isn't empty. Streetlights still hold their steady pools of amber on the pavement. A few cars move through intersections like they have the whole map to themselves. Slow, unhurried, almost polite. In the distance, a traffic signal changes for no one in particular, keeping time the way it always does. There's usually a glowing sign somewhere, a pharmacy, a diner, a gas station with bright windows and a small bell on the door. Maybe a convenience store where the aisles are too clean for the hour and the coffee machine is quietly warming up for people who aren't awake yet. And if you listen closely, you can almost hear the city's other sounds, not the daytime noise, but the nighttime ones. A soft HVAC hum, a delivery truck backing up somewhere far away, the faint roll of wheels over a seam in the road, a door opening, then closing again. Quiet doesn't mean empty. It just means the work is spaced out, spread thin across the hours, happening in pockets of light and motion, here and there, while most of the city rests. The city doesn't run on a single clock. It runs on overlapping shifts, like layers of thin fabric laid one over another, each one covering a different need, each one starting and ending at its own quiet time. Some people clock in when the sun goes down. Some start at midnight, some begin at 3 in the morning, when the night still feels deep and the air is cold and clean. And some never really stop because their work is built around being available whenever something happens. If you only live in daytime hours, it can feel like the world closes at night. But what really happens is that the schedule changes hands. Retail stores dim their lights and lock their doors, and then, behind the scenes, The stocking crews come in. Office buildings go silent, and then the cleaning crews arrive, working floor by floor, moving carefully through empty hallways. Restaurants turn off the music, and a prep kitchen somewhere begins again, measuring, mixing, waiting for dough to rise. Even the streets have their own rhythm. Some roads are repaired at night because it's safer and faster when traffic is thin. Some deliveries are scheduled before dawn to avoid congestion, and underneath it all, there's an overnight promise the city quietly tries to keep. When you wake up, things will look normal, the shelves will be full again, the floors will feel clean under your shoes, the coffee will be ready, the lights will turn on, the doors will unlock on time, the bathrooms will be stocked, the elevator will move without complaint. The bus will arrive like it always does, even if you've never thought about who checked it, fueled it, swept it out, or signed off on it before dawn. It will feel as if nothing happened, as if the day simply paused for a few hours and then resumed. But the truth is that normal is a product. It's the result of 1,000 small tasks completed in the quiet hours, often by people you never meet, working in places you rarely see. Back hallways, loading bays, utility rooms, kitchens, garages, storage closets. Overnight work doesn't announce itself. It doesn't want applause. Its job is to erase its own footsteps, so the morning can look effortless. That's the promise. You wake up, and the world is ready, calm, familiar, and somehow already in place. Night work exists for a simple reason. It's a trade. The loud, messy, disruptive tasks move into the quiet hours, so the daytime can feel smooth. Cleaning is disruptive. Even when it's done carefully, it means wet floors, carts in the hallway, vacuum noise, bright lights in places that are usually calm. It means moving around people, or waiting for them to pass, or asking them to step aside. At night, the building is empty, and the work can flow. Restocking is disruptive too. Pallets and boxes, rolling carts, beeping scanners, aisles temporarily blocked, shelves pulled forward and reorganized. During the day, that same work becomes a slow negotiation with foot traffic, customers browsing, kids running, people stopping to read labels. At night, it's just a crew and a plan. Repairs are disruptive almost by definition. You can't fix an escalator while people are standing on it. You can't shut down an air system for maintenance when the building is full. You can't repaint a line on a floor while everyone is walking across it. Night gives you permission to pause the machine. And deliveries are disruptive in their own way. Large trucks, tight loading docks, doors propped open, pallets moving from the back to the front. In many places, deliveries happen when streets are quieter and docks are available, because it's simply easier, and often cheaper, to move goods when fewer people are in the way. So the logic is gentle and practical. If the daytime is the performance, the part meant to look simple, then the night is when the stagehands come out. They sweep the floors, they refill the shelves, they fix what's worn down, they bring in what's needed, and then, when morning comes, they step away, and the world looks effortless again. And then there's the economics of interruption. Daytime work gets interrupted, constantly, by the simple fact that the world is awake. Customers arrive, phones ring, people ask questions, someone needs a manager. A delivery shows up early, a delivery shows up late. A meeting starts, then runs long. A door gets held open, a hallway gets blocked. A spill happens. A fire alarm chirps. A forklift has to stop because someone stepped into the aisle. Even in places that feel calm, an office, a school, a library, daytime is full of small, unavoidable collisions between work and people. And those collisions cost time, not because anyone is doing something wrong, but because humans are unpredictable. They pause, they browse, they talk, they change their mind. They move in groups. They need help. They need space. So when a job depends on rhythm, when it's better done smoothly, in order, without stops and starts, daytime becomes expensive. Nighttime work often has fewer interruptions. Fewer people in the building means fewer surprises, fewer conversations, less waiting, less stopping and restarting. The same task that takes 3 hours in daylight might take 2 hours at night, simply because it can be done in one continuous line. It's not just faster, it's cleaner. A crew can move through a space the way water moves, quietly, efficiently, leaving fewer gaps behind. And when labor is one of your biggest costs, minutes matter. Not dramatic minutes, just steady, boring minutes that add up across weeks, across years. So night work isn't only about convenience. It's also about efficiency, about turning down the volume of interruption so the work can be completed with fewer pauses. And the same building can be ready again by morning. And beyond speed, there's something else the night shift sells. Reliability. Not as a feeling, but as a product. Open at 8. Fresh at 6. Ready by morning. Those aren't just nice phrases on a sign. They're promises. And in modern life, a promise that keeps getting broken becomes expensive fast. If a store opens late, people leave. If the shelves are empty, people change habits. If the bathrooms are unclean, people don't come back. If the coffee isn't ready, the morning routine breaks. If the elevator is down, the building feels smaller. If a hotel lobby looks tired, the whole place feels tired. Reliability is what makes everything else feel easy. And overnight work is how businesses manufacture reliability. Quietly, repeatedly, without ceremony. The bakery works while you sleep, so the pastry case looks full when you arrive. The cleaning crew works in the empty building, so the lobby feels fresh at 8 o'clock. The delivery driver arrives before sunrise, so the store can pretend the goods were always there. The maintenance crew replaces a part at 3 in the morning, so the machine runs without interruption all day. It's a calm kind of magic. Not something from nothing, but something from routine. Overnight, the work happens early enough that you don't have to think about it. That's the point. The promise is kept before the day even begins. So when morning arrives and the world looks ready, when everything feels normal, what you're really seeing is a product that was built in the dark. Reliability, delivered on time. The overnight supply chain is one of those systems you can live inside for years and still barely notice, because its best work happens when the streets are quiet and the stores are dark. Warehouses feel a little like night creatures. They come alive in the late hours, not with drama, but with routine. Pick lists get printed or appear on handheld screens. Someone walks long aisles with a steady pace, scanning barcodes, pulling cases, building an order one item at a time. Pallets stack up like temporary little towers, boxed cereal, paper towels, canned soup, bottled water. Ordinary goods arranged into a shape that can be moved. Forklifts move through the lanes with a soft mechanical confidence, lifting and placing, like a calm metronome. Loading bays become the main doors of the building. Trailers back in. Dock plates settle. The air smells like cardboard and cold concrete and the faint sweetness of shrink wrap. In the daytime, we imagine shopping as the center of commerce. At night, the center is simply movement, goods in motion, quietly changing hands. And the timing matters more than most people realize. Deliveries are not just send a truck whenever. They're scheduled around time windows, store hours, traffic patterns, and whether a loading dock is even available. A truck can't easily arrive when the receiving area is blocked, or when the store is crowded, or when the only person authorized to sign for a shipment is busy. So routes are planned like a careful choreography. This stop before dawn, that stop right after closing, another stop at a warehouse that never truly sleeps. Traffic is part of the math, too. Night driving can be faster, but it has its own rules. Construction, weather, the occasional delay that feels small but ripples outward. One late truck can become a series of late trucks. One missed time window can mean waiting, which means cost, which means frustration, which means the shelf staying empty longer than anyone wanted. This is why the supply chain loves predictable quiet. It's not romantic, it's practical. A back door that opens on schedule is more valuable than a highway that looks clear on a map. And somewhere in the middle of all this is a simple idea that sounds technical but is actually easy to picture: cross-docking. Cross-docking just means the goods don't rest for very long. Instead of arriving at a warehouse, sitting in storage for days, and then being pulled later, many shipments arrive and leave quickly, sometimes within hours. They come off one truck and are sorted toward another truck. Less storage time, more flow. The warehouse becomes less like a pantry and more like a crossroads. If storage is put it on the shelf and remember it's there, then cross-docking is keep it moving so you don't have to remember it for long. And the reason is gentle. Storing things costs money. Space costs money. Handling things twice costs money. The more you can turn the warehouse into a place of short visits, goods passing through instead of settling down, the more efficient the whole system becomes. Faster movement can mean fresher products, fewer stockouts, fewer piles of extra, fewer moments when a manager wonders why they have too much of one item and not enough of another. So when shelves get full again, what you're seeing is the end of a long, quiet chain of small, timed actions. Lists and scans, pallets and forks, docks and doors, windows and routes, and a preference for flow over stillness. And if it all goes well, it leaves no trace. You wake up, walk into a store, and the cereal is simply there, like it always was. Because overnight, the system did its work in the dark and then disappeared before anyone had to think about it. There's a side of almost every business that customers rarely see, and yet it's where the real day begins. The back door, it might be a metal door in an alley, a roll-up bay behind a grocery store, a narrow hallway marked employees only, a keypad, a buzzer, a camera in the corner, a sign that says, in plain language, this is not part of the performance. And still, everything the customer sees starts there. Behind that locked door is where the store becomes a machine. Deliveries are checked in, counts are verified, cases are opened, items are sorted into carts, products are rotated so older stock moves first, damaged goods are recorded and set aside, returns are inspected, shelf tags are printed, price changes are updated. Sometimes a whole plan for the day is taped to a wall, written in quick shorthand. What's coming, what's missing, what needs to be moved. The front of the store is the part built for browsing. Wide aisles, music, bright signs, a gentle illusion of abundance. The back of the store is built for throughput. It's narrower, less forgiving. It's full of thresholds, a pallet jack that needs room to turn, a cramped cooler that holds tomorrow's sandwiches, a receiving area where one mistake becomes a chain of paperwork. The backdoor economy is where ordinary goods become available goods. A banana is not truly a product until it's off the truck, in the right temperature, counted correctly, and placed where a person can reach it without thinking. A case of cereal doesn't exist for a shopper until it has passed through those hidden steps. So when we say the shelves were empty, what we really mean is something behind the locked door didn't happen yet. And because so much depends on that unseen process, small failures can snowball. A late truck is the classic example, simple, understandable, and surprisingly powerful. One late truck means the receiving team may not be there when it arrives, or they may be stretched thin, trying to accept it quickly while also handling other tasks. That can lead to shortcuts, boxes staged in the wrong place, items left unworked, pallets parked where they block something else. The late truck pushes everything later. Stocking happens later, facing happens later, the morning looks less ready. Then the customer comes in. Maybe they're not angry. Maybe they just notice, quietly, that their usual item is missing. The coffee creamer isn't there. The bread they like is gone. The pet food they always buy is out. They substitute once. They tell themselves it's fine. But habits are delicate. If it happens again the next week, they start to adjust. They choose a different brand. They try a different store. They stop trusting that this place will have what they need. And trust is expensive to rebuild because trust is built out of repetition. It's rarely one failure that loses a customer. It's the pattern. And the chain doesn't stop at the shelf. Empty shelf means missed sale. Missed sale means inventory numbers look strange. Strange numbers can cause the next order to be wrong. Either too small, because the system assumes demand dropped, or too large, because someone tries to overcorrect. Over-ordering leads to crowded backrooms, more product expiring, more waste. Under-ordering leads to more emptiness, more substitutions, more frustration. Even pricing and staffing get pulled into it. When an item is constantly out, managers spend time hunting it down, calling vendors, rearranging labor. The store feels more stressed. The workers feel more rushed. Rushed work causes more errors, miscounts, misplacements, damaged items, missed checks, all from something that started as a single late truck on a single night. That's what makes the backdoor economy so quietly important. It's not just logistics. It's not just inventory. It's the engine room where reliability is manufactured. The front of the store is where you experience the result. The back of the store is where the promise either holds or begins to slip. And most of the time, you never see it. You just wake up, walk in, and you can feel, without thinking about why, whether the reset happened cleanly overnight, or whether the machine is running a little behind. When the doors close and the last cart rolls out, retail doesn't truly stop. It changes shape. Night stocking is a kind of invisible theater prep. The customers are gone, the lights are softer, and the store becomes a workspace instead of a stage. Carts and pallets come out. Boxes open with quiet snaps. Someone moves down an aisle with a simple goal: make tomorrow look effortless. A lot of that work is small and repetitive, but it adds up to the feeling you get when you walk in the next day. Facing products is one of the simplest examples. It's the practice of pulling items forward so the shelves look full and tidy. It sounds cosmetic, and it is, but it also keeps things readable. Labels face outward. Items sit where hands expect them. A shelf that looks full signals abundance, even if there's only one row left behind the front line. It's a gentle illusion, but it's also a form of clarity. Then there's replacing gaps. A gap is more than an empty spot. It's a broken sentence in the story of the aisle. Customers notice gaps instantly, even if they don't name them. A missing product creates a tiny moment of friction, a pause, a search, a substitution, a question. So overnight crews fill gaps the way a proofreader fixes missing words, quietly restoring flow. And rotating dates is the patient, practical part. Older stock moves forward, newer stock goes behind. It's not glamorous, but it protects the business from waste and protects customers from disappointment. In food especially, rotation is a quiet discipline, making sure the system doesn't forget what it already has. All of this depends on another idea that sounds complicated until you picture it: the planogram. A planogram is just a map for the shelf, not a philosophical map, an actual, practical one. It says, this item goes here, this brand goes there, this size belongs on this level, this flavor sits next to its neighbors. It's the store deciding in advance what the aisle should look like when it's done. And the reason the shelf needs a map is simple. Without one, the shelf becomes an argument. Different workers place things differently. Popular items sprawl and push others out. New products arrive and don't find a home. Suddenly, customers can't locate what they came for, and workers can't quickly tell what's missing. The planogram gives every item a home. It's a way of keeping the store searchable, like arranging a library so books don't migrate at random. The shelf, in that sense, is a form of information. It's a visual language that says, here is what we carry, and here is where you will find it. And that leads to the economics of neatness. Neatness is not just aesthetic. It changes how people buy. A clean shelf makes choice feel easier. When items are faced, grouped, and consistent, the customer spends less time hunting and more time deciding. Less friction means fewer abandoned purchases. It's the same reason a well-organized menu sells more than a messy one. Your brain doesn't have to fight the presentation. Neatness also creates trust. A store that looks cared for feels like it will handle your needs. A tidy aisle suggests that someone is paying attention, checking stock, keeping dates fresh, maintaining order. Even if you never consciously think it, the environment gives you a sense of reliability. And reliability, as we've said, is a product. So overnight, retail reset is a quiet cycle. Fix the small disorder that built up during the day, restore the map, refill the gaps, rotate the dates, pull the story of the shelves back into a clean line. In the morning, customers arrive and see the performance. But the reset happened earlier, under softer lights, through routines so steady that, when they succeed, they feel like nothing at all. And then there's the part of retail that feels the least like theater, and the most like accounting, counting what's missing. Because a store doesn't really run on shelves, it runs on numbers. Every item on the floor is supposed to have a shadow version of itself inside a system. A count, a location, a reorder point, a history of when it sells and how fast. When those numbers match reality, the store feels smooth. When they drift apart, the store starts to feel strange in small ways. Empty spots that shouldn't be empty. Too much of what nobody wants, not enough of what everyone buys. So overnight, and in the quiet hours, people count. Sometimes it's a formal inventory check. Sometimes it's cycle counting. Small sections, done regularly, so the whole store gets checked over time. Sometimes it's a quick scan of a particular shelf that's been troublesome. The method changes, but the goal is the same. Bring the system back into alignment with the physical world. Scanning makes this possible at scale. A barcode is a shortcut between the object and the database. You scan an item and the system learns something. This is here, this is present, this is moving, this is low. But scanning only works when the process is disciplined. Missed scans, double scans, items put in the wrong spot. Those are small errors that spread outward. And then there's shrink. Shrink is the soft word stores use for hard losses. Theft, damage, spoilage, miscounts, paperwork errors, things that disappear in ways that don't look dramatic from a distance. People hear shrink and imagine only shoplifting, but shrink is broader than that. It includes a case of yogurt that was left out too long and has to be thrown away. It includes a pallet that arrived damaged, a box that was opened and never properly recorded, a return that was processed wrong, a delivery that was short but signed for anyway because everyone was rushed. Shrink is what happens when reality leaks out of the system. It's also one of the reasons overnight work matters. With fewer customers and fewer interruptions, workers can count more carefully, scan more consistently, and notice problems earlier, before they become expensive patterns. Because mistakes become money in retail. Not metaphorically, literally. If the system thinks you have 10 units but you actually have 2, it might not reorder in time. That creates an empty shelf, which creates missed sales, which creates a false signal. The system reads low sales and assumes demand dropped, when the real problem was that the item wasn't there to be purchased. The store loses revenue and also loses information about what customers actually want. If the system thinks you have 2 units but you actually have 10, it may reorder unnecessarily. Then you end up with too much. Too much becomes clutter in the back room, extra handling, more chances for damage, more chances for spoilage. In grocery, extra can turn into waste. In general merchandise, extra can turn into markdowns. Either way, the mistake shows up on the balance sheet. Even location errors become money. When an item is placed in the wrong spot, it might as well be invisible. Customers can't find it. Workers can't pick it quickly for online orders. The system may keep ordering more because it seems like stock is low, while the missing items sit quietly in the wrong aisle, waiting to be rediscovered. And the quiet truth is that a lot of retail labor is spent correcting these small drifts. Counting is the unglamorous work of tightening a loose screw. You're not changing the whole machine. You're keeping it from wobbling. That's why inventory checks are often paired with routine observation, noticing what's selling faster than expected, noticing which items are constantly out, noticing which shelves look disturbed in a way that suggests misplacement or confusion. The overnight crew doesn't just refill. They read the store. They learn the patterns and try to keep tomorrow from becoming chaotic. And when they succeed, the customer never sees it, which leads to a line that's worth repeating, gently, later in the episode, because it's one of the quiet principles of the whole overnight economy. Morning shoppers don't buy the work, only the result. They don't buy the counting. They don't buy the scanning. They don't buy the corrected mistakes. They don't buy the quiet discipline that prevented a shelf from going empty. They buy a store that feels ready. They buy the feeling that what they need is where it should be. They buy reliability without having to think about. Cleaning is one of the clearest examples of how an economy depends on work most people barely notice. Because cleaning isn't a luxury in modern spaces. It's infrastructure. Not glamorous infrastructure, no plaque on the wall, but the kind that keeps a system usable. A building can have great design and expensive equipment, but if it's dirty, it feels broken. If it smells off, people leave. If the floors are sticky, the whole place seems careless. If the bathrooms are unclean, the building becomes a problem instead of a service. So cleaning isn't only about appearance. It's about keeping spaces functional and trustworthy. It's what allows people to share an office without getting sick constantly. It's what makes a gym feel safe. It's what turns a hotel room into a room someone is willing to sleep in. It's what keeps schools, libraries, malls, and transit hubs from slowly becoming unpleasant to use. In the daytime, cleaning is awkward. It has to negotiate with people. A cleaner works around crowds, around desks, around customers who don't want to step around a mop bucket. Even when everyone is polite, it's slow. It's stop and start work. At night, it becomes something else. The building empties out, and the cleaners get the space back. They can move in a smooth sequence, room by room, floor by floor, without being interrupted every few minutes. The work becomes less about improvisation and more about rhythm. And that's one reason so much cleaning happens overnight. Fewer interruptions makes the same labor go farther. But large-scale cleaning isn't just someone comes in and cleans. It's usually bought as reliability through contracts and checklists. A contract turns cleaning into a defined product. It sets standards: what gets cleaned, how often, what done means, and when it must be finished. Many contracts revolve around a simple line that governs everything: done by open. That phrase creates a hard deadline. It means the work has to fit inside a window. Crews need a plan. Supplies and equipment have to be ready. Problems, broken dispensers, clogged drains, spills, missing trash liners, have to be handled without turning the night into chaos. So contracts break the work into measurable pieces: time per room, time per bathroom, time per floor section. How long it should take to vacuum a hallway, mop a lobby, wipe surfaces, empty bins, restock supplies. The numbers are never perfect, but they create a baseline. They let a business schedule labor, estimate cost, and expect consistency. And because contracts involve money, they also involve inspection. Sometimes inspection is formal. A supervisor checks areas, signs off on a checklist, notes what needs improvement. Sometimes it's informal. A manager walks in the next morning and can tell instantly whether the space was truly reset. Either way, cleaning is one of those jobs where quality is both obvious and invisible at once. Obvious when it's missing, invisible when it's done well. Then there's the deeper reason cleaning matters: hygiene, and liability. Cleanliness protects health. Shared surfaces, restrooms, break rooms, door handles, become less risky when they're cleaned properly. In schools and healthcare settings, this isn't just comfort, it's part of keeping the place operational. And cleanliness reduces financial risk too. A spill left on a floor is a slip hazard. Trash left overflowing can attract pests. Poor cleaning can damage equipment over time. And a space that feels neglected loses trust, quietly, steadily, until people avoid it. So cleaning is, in a very real way, risk management. It's a building protecting itself from accidents, lost customers, costly damage, and a reputation that spreads faster than any ad campaign. When it's done right, it creates a strange kind of calm. The space feels prepared. People walk in and focus on what they came to do, work, shop, study, travel, without being pulled into discomfort or worry. That's the quiet power of cleaning crews. They reset the environment so the day can function. They do it under time pressure, with checklists and standards, often with very little recognition. And if they do it perfectly, most people will never think about them at all. The building will simply feel usable. Cleanliness protects health, and it reduces risk. On the health side, it's simple. Shared spaces create shared exposure. Restrooms, break rooms, door handles, elevator buttons, gym equipment. Places where hundreds of hands pass through the same few surfaces. Cleaning lowers the background level of germs and grime, and in busy buildings that can be the difference between a normal week and everyone's getting sick. And then there's risk in the legal, financial sense. Liability. A spill left on a floor becomes a fall becomes a claim becomes paperwork, cost, and sometimes litigation. A neglected bathroom can become a complaint that escalates into a reputation problem. Trash that isn't handled can attract pests. Dust can trigger allergies, and mold can turn into a major remediation project. Even something as small as a greasy entryway on a rainy day can create hazards that show up later as expenses. So cleaning is quietly protective. It prevents minor messes from becoming major problems. And to do that consistently, night after night, requires a skill that most people underestimate. The quiet skill is speed, consistency, and not disturbing anyone. Speed doesn't mean rushing. It means knowing the sequence, having a rhythm, moving through a space in the right order so you don't redo work. Vacuum first, then wipe, then mop, so dust doesn't fall onto a floor you already finished. Restock last so you're not constantly reaching around supplies. Empty bins in a route that doesn't backtrack. In large buildings, time is measured in corridors and stairwells, and the best crews develop a flow that keeps the whole place on schedule. Consistency is even harder. It means doing the same task to the same standard, even when you're tired, even when something unexpected happens, even when the building seems clean enough. Consistency is what turns cleaning into infrastructure, because infrastructure has to work every day, not just when someone feels motivated. And not disturbing anyone is its own craft. In hotels, you work around sleeping guests. In office buildings, you avoid slamming doors and bright lights where security or late workers might still be present. In hospitals, you move carefully around people in vulnerable states. Even in ordinary spaces, there's a kind of respect involved, cleaning without making the place feel invaded. The irony is that the better this skill is performed, the more invisible it becomes. That's the emotional invisibility of cleaning. If the job is done well, nobody thinks about it. The floor is clean, so the floor disappears from your awareness. The bathroom smells neutral, so you don't notice it. The lobby looks normal, so you assume it was always that way. People rarely compliment not having a problem. They just move on. And that can be a strange experience for the people doing the work. Their success is measured by the absence of complaint. Their best nights leave no evidence, no trace except readiness. They erase the mess, and in doing so, they erase proof that the mess existed at all. But in the overnight economy, that's often the highest form of competence, to do essential work and then vanish from the story. So the building opens in the morning, and everything feels prepared. The day begins, the performance starts, and somewhere behind it, quietly, reliably, the reset has already happened. Maintenance is the part of the overnight economy that feels the most like a secret agreement between a building and the people inside it. Because most machines don't like being watched. They prefer quiet. They prefer space. They prefer time. That's why so many repairs happen at night. With fewer people around, the work becomes safer, faster, and less costly, especially when you measure cost as downtime. If you need to shut down an escalator, you can't do it easily at noon when it's carrying a constant stream of shoppers. If you need to check an elevator, you don't want a line of irritated people waiting in a lobby. If you need to take a section of a store offline to replace flooring, or shut off water briefly to fix a valve, or run tests on a fire system, it's much easier to do when the building is mostly empty. Night creates a clean maintenance window, a pocket of time when the system can pause without causing a public scene. Safety is the obvious part. Fewer people means fewer chances someone wanders into a work area, fewer chances of slips, trips, and collisions, fewer moving pieces. A crew can use ladders, tools, cords, and open panels without constantly guarding the space from foot traffic. The work is still careful, but it's less chaotic. Speed is the next part. Repairs often require uninterrupted focus, diagnosing, disassembling, replacing, testing, reassembling. Daytime work gets broken up. Someone needs access. Someone asks questions. A manager requests a quick change. A customer complains. At night, a crew can keep its hands on the job and move through a full sequence without being pulled away every few minutes. And then there's downtime cost, the quiet financial pressure behind it all. When something is out of service during the day, it can cost money directly. A broken cooler can spoil inventory. A down register slows sales. A faulty door disrupts security. A malfunctioning HVAC system makes a building uncomfortable and drives people away. Even small outages can have ripple effects. A delayed opening, a shortened schedule, a backlog of customers, overtime, pay to catch up. So businesses choose night repairs when they can, not because they love the night, but because the night is cheaper in the language that matters. Fewer interruptions, fewer complaints, fewer lost transactions, fewer ripple effects. And within maintenance, there's a quiet divide that shapes almost everything: preventive versus emergency. Preventive maintenance is boring. That's its main feature. Its filters changed on a schedule. Belts inspected before they snap. Lubrication where friction would quietly build. Batteries replaced before they fail. Parts swapped while the old part still works, but is nearing the end of its reliable life. It's checklists, logs, routine tests, and small adjustments. Preventive maintenance doesn't create a dramatic story. It creates a lack of drama. And that's why it's usually cheaper. It keeps problems small. It turns surprise into planning. It lets a business order parts ahead of time, schedule labor, and choose the least disruptive moment to pause the machine. Emergency maintenance is the opposite. Emergency maintenance is when the machine fails in public. It's dramatic by nature: alarms, shutdowns, sudden discomfort, angry lines, managers on the phone, rushed decisions. Emergency repairs often cost more because they compress everything. You can't shop for the best price when you need the part right now. You can't schedule the crew neatly when the failure is already happening. You pay for rush shipping, overtime, and the hidden cost of disruption. And you pay in reputation, too. Because people remember breakdowns. A store that always has the cooler down becomes unreliable. A building with a constantly broken elevator feels less welcoming. A system that fails repeatedly creates anxiety in everyone who depends on it, staff and customers alike. So the overnight economy leans heavily toward prevention when it's managed well. Not because prevention is exciting, but because excitement is expensive. The goal is for the machine to run all day without being noticed, and for the repair to happen quietly, in the dark, in that calm window where the building can be opened up, fixed, tested. A lot of the overnight economy can be summarized in one gentle phrase: the maintenance window. A maintenance window is a scheduled pocket of time when a system is allowed to pause. Not because it wants to pause, and not because anyone enjoys shutting things down, but because every system, no matter how modern, needs moments when it can be checked, cleaned, tightened, updated, and put back into order without an audience. In the daytime, we treat always on like a natural state. We expect the elevator to work, the website to load, the air to feel comfortable, the roads to be open, the store to be bright, the card reader to accept our payment without drama. But always on is not a default. It's something maintained. So organizations carve out small, protected blocks of time where they can do the work that keeps always on from becoming eventually broken. Sometimes the window is after closing. Sometimes it's between midnight and dawn. Sometimes it's early Sunday morning, when usage is lower and the disruption is smaller. In hospitals and utilities, the window might be a smaller, more careful kind of pause, taking one part of a system offline while another part keeps running. The principle is the same. If you never stop the machine, you eventually stop it by accident. And once you start looking for maintenance windows, you see them everywhere. HVAC filters are a simple one. They're quiet, boring, easy to ignore, until you don't. Filters clog slowly, then airflow drops. The building becomes stuffy. Equipment strains harder. Energy use rises. Allergens circulate. So a crew changes filters on schedule, often when fewer people are present, because ladders, ceiling panels, and dust are not ideal for a busy office at 2 p.m. A 10-minute task, done regularly, prevents a larger problem later. Escalator checks and elevator maintenance are another easy picture. These systems move people through space, and when they're down, you feel it immediately. But the maintenance itself is slow and methodical. Inspections, lubrication, worn parts replaced before they fail, safety systems tested. Doing that work in a maintenance window avoids the daytime frustration of out-of-service signs and crowd bottlenecks. Floor waxing is a classic overnight task because it's so obviously incompatible with daytime life. Waxing means the floor is temporarily unusable. It has to be cleaned, treated, and given time to dry and cure. In the day, that would be chaos. At night, it becomes a quiet ritual. A machine that hums softly. A glossy surface spreading slowly across an empty hallway, and the simple satisfaction of a clean reset before morning shoes arrive. Software updates are the modern version of the same idea. Most people don't connect the phrase maintenance window to computers, but it's the same logic. Systems need pauses. Servers get patched. Databases get backed up. Security updates get installed. Sometimes a website goes down for maintenance at 3 a.m. for a reason that's dull but important, because the cost of a late-night interruption is smaller than the cost of a daytime failure. Street work might be the most visible maintenance window of all. You've probably seen road crews at night. Cones, reflective vests, bright work lights, the slow rhythm of machinery. It can look inconvenient, but it's an attempt to fix the city while the city is least crowded. Fewer cars mean safer crews. Less traffic means faster work. And the goal is always the same. Finish the disruption before the morning surge returns. These examples are different on the surface. Air filters, escalators, floors, software, streets. But they share a single quiet rule. The best repair is the one nobody notices. Not because the work is unimportant, but because the goal of maintenance is not to create a story. The goal is to prevent one. A good repair happens inside the maintenance window, leaves no trace, and hands the system back to daylight in working order. No drama, no warning signs, no scrambling. Just the steady feeling in the morning that everything is normal, as if nothing happened. And that, as if nothing happened feeling is exactly what the overnight economy is built to deliver. Fresh food in the morning has a particular kind of illusion to it. You walk into a grocery store or a cafe and the pastry case looks full. Bread looks warm. Muffins look like they were placed there by an invisible hand 5 minutes ago. Even the air sometimes carries that soft, comforting smell, sweet, toasted, just enough to make the day feel started. And if you're half awake, it can feel like magic. Not the flashy kind of magic, the gentle kind, the it's just there kind. But the truth is that morning food is mostly an overnight pipeline, built out of timing, patience, and processes that can't be rushed. Dough is the best example, because dough teaches you a quiet lesson. Some steps require waiting. In baking, waiting isn't a mistake. Waiting is the method. Proofing, letting dough rise, isn't just time passing. It's yeast doing work at its own pace, expanding the dough, developing texture and flavor. If you hurry it too much, the bread suffers. If you ignore it too long, it collapses. So bakeries don't just bake, they schedule time itself. They plan for the moment the dough will be ready, and then they build the night around it. A lot of overnight baking starts hours before dawn. Someone comes in while the street is still quiet and the sky is still dark. Mixers spin. Flour dust settles. Trays line up. Dough rests. Proofing cabinets hum at controlled temperatures. Timers are set. Everything feels slow, but it's actually precise. This is one of the calmer truths of the overnight economy. Precision doesn't always look fast. It often looks like waiting in the right order. Baking schedules are built around that order. Bread that needs a long rise might be started earlier, then shaped, then proofed again, then baked in waves so the ovens are always being used efficiently. Pastries that need to be laminated, folded with butter, chilled, rolled, folded again, become a rhythm of work and rest. Even simple items have a timeline: mix, rest, portion, bake, cool, package. And because ovens have limits, the schedule becomes a kind of quiet puzzle. You can't bake everything at once. You have to sequence what goes in first, what comes out next, what needs more heat, what needs less, what can cool while the next batch bakes. A good overnight bakery crew is part craft, part choreography. Then the pipeline extends outward, past the ovens and into the morning's geography. Delivery routes start while most people are asleep. Trays and boxes are loaded into vans. Items are labeled for specific stops. This cafe gets these muffins. That grocery store gets those rolls. This hotel gets those pastries for breakfast service. Routes are chosen for speed and reliability. Arrive before the doors open, before commuters fill the roads, before the morning staff is overwhelmed. And again, timing is the product. If the pastries arrive at 5:20 a.m., everything downstream can work smoothly. Staff can stock the case, coffee can brew. The first customers can walk in and feel like the day is already prepared for them. If the pastries arrive late, the illusion breaks. The case looks empty, the staff scrambles. Customers substitute or leave. A small delay becomes a visible absence. So the overnight food pipeline is a perfect example of the city's hidden promise. You wake up and the world is ready. But here, ready has a smell. It has warmth. It has a soft paper bag and a pastry that flakes the way it's supposed to. And the real secret isn't magic. It's patient processes done on purpose, in the right order, at the right hour, while most people are asleep. The morning illusion is built the same way bread is built, slowly, steadily, and quietly, until it looks effortless. Commissaries and prep kitchens are one of the quiet inventions that make modern food feel effortless. If the bakery is the romantic version of overnight work, warm ovens, rising dough, then the commissary is the practical version: stainless steel, spreadsheets, labeled bins, and a calm obsession with repetition. A commissary is a centralized kitchen that produces food for many locations at once. Instead of every cafe, grocery deli, or fast casual spot doing every step from scratch, the work is gathered into one place where it can be done in bulk, with tighter control, and with fewer surprises. The same chopping, mixing, portioning, and packaging, just concentrated. And when work is centralized, three things usually happen. It gets cheaper, it gets more consistent, and it becomes scalable. Cheaper is the easiest to understand. When you do the same task many times, you can design the space around it. You buy ingredients in larger quantities. You waste less. You train staff on a narrower set of motions. You use equipment more efficiently. Instead of each store buying an expensive slicer, a commissary buys one good slicer and runs it all night. Instead of 10 small kitchens each losing time to set up and clean up, one kitchen runs like a continuous line. Consistency is a different kind of value, and it's often the point. A customer doesn't only want food. They want the same sandwich they liked last time, the same sauce, the same texture, the same amount. Consistency turns a meal into a reliable habit, and commissaries are built for this because they can measure and standardize in ways small kitchens struggle to maintain during busy hours. In a commissary, portioning becomes a ritual. Scoops are the same size. Weights are checked, labels are printed, dates are tracked. The work is less improvisational and more engineered. It can feel cold if you imagine it wrong, but there's also a quiet comfort in it. The food will be the way it's supposed to be, because the system is designed to make it that way. Scalable is the part that changes everything. When a business grows from one location to 10, the biggest challenge isn't the menu. It's the ability to reproduce the menu. If each location is responsible for every step, quality drifts, staffing becomes harder, training multiplies, and small mistakes become brand-wide problems. A commissary solves this by turning growth into distribution instead of reinvention. You make the components once in a controlled place, and then you deliver them. The stores become finishing stations rather than full kitchens. They assemble, they heat, they garnish, they present. And that's where the overnight economy shows up again. Most commissary work is timed around mornings. They're building tomorrow's fresh in the dark hours. You can picture it: large mixing bowls, industrial ovens, racks cooling under quiet fans, bins of prepped vegetables, tubs of sauce labeled with dates. Someone portioning protein into uniform containers. Someone laying out wraps or breakfast burritos into a neat row, each one sealed and placed into a crate that will roll into a refrigerated truck before dawn. It's not glamorous, but it's deeply effective. It's the kind of system that makes a city feel fed. And it changes what we mean when we say convenience. Because convenience is not a single product. It's a network of decisions. When you buy a breakfast sandwich in a wrapper, what you're really buying is coordination. You're buying the fact that eggs were cooked at the right time, in the right way, in the right quantity. You're buying that cheese was portioned and kept cold. You're buying that bread was delivered on schedule. You're buying that packaging was ordered months ago, designed to keep the sandwich warm but not soggy, printed with the right branding, stocked in the right place. You're buying that the store had staff to receive the shipment, store it safely, rotate it, and assemble it without missing steps. A breakfast sandwich is a supply chain wearing a wrapper. It's a small object that contains an entire system. Even the simplest version, egg, cheese, bread, depends on a list of quiet supports. Farms and processors producing ingredients at scale. Cold storage and refrigeration, maintaining safety. Warehouses and delivery routes moving items into position. Commissary teams doing the labor when the city is asleep. Store teams finishing the last step and presenting it as ready now. And the reason this system exists is that time in the morning is expensive. Morning is the hour of commuting, school drop-offs, alarms, routines, and urgency. People want food that fits into the narrow space between awake and out the door. So businesses compete not only on taste, but on timing, on speed, on being ready when you're not. That readiness is manufactured upstream. The commissary makes convenience possible because it moves labor away from the moment of purchase. It shifts work earlier into a place where it can be repeated efficiently and then delivers the result to the point of sale. That's the real trick of modern convenience. It relocates effort. Instead of doing everything in front of you, the system does most of it elsewhere, quietly, and then hands you the finished object like it appeared from nowhere. There's also a gentler truth tucked inside this. Convenience can look simple while being incredibly complex. The wrapper hides the complexity. The tidy display case hides the night shift. The neat stack of breakfast items hides the careful scheduling of deliveries. Even the phrase grab and go hides the fact that nothing truly goes unless 100 small tasks already happened in the right order. And when the system works, it feels almost like kindness. You're tired. You're not in the mood to cook. You want something warm, fast, familiar. You want the day to start without friction. So you reach into the case, take the sandwich, and keep moving. And you don't have to think about the people who built that moment for you at 2:30 in the morning, under bright kitchen lights, doing the same careful motions again and again, centralized not to make life cold, but to make it reliable. In the overnight economy, that's often the highest ambition. To create a morning that feels easy. Not because mornings are truly easy, but because the system did its hardest work earlier, in the quiet, so you could hold the result in one hand, wrapped neatly, like the world is already under control. Some places can dim their lights, lock their doors, and let the night take over. But other places can't fully close. Hospitals are the clearest example. They don't get to choose a quiet window where nothing happens. They're built for the opposite, unpredictability. People arrive in pain at 3 a.m. Babies decide on their own schedules. Alarms don't wait for business hours. So the hospital stays lit, staffed, and ready, day and night, because readiness is the product. Hotels are always on in a different way. People arrive late. People leave early. Someone's key stops working. A pipe leaks. A hallway needs attention. The building is someone's temporary home, and homes don't have office hours. Even when the lobby looks calm, there's a quiet night shift keeping the place steady. Front desk, maintenance, security, housekeeping prepping for the morning turn. Utilities are always on because they're the background of modern life. Water pressure, electricity, heat, internet. These systems can't pause just because the clock is late. They're monitored continuously. Crews are on call. And much of their work is preventive, checking loads, responding to small failures before they become large ones, keeping the grid and the pipes and the signals stable while most people sleep. Call centers are always on because time zones exist and because emergencies don't schedule appointments. Some are customer service, some are medical and insurance, some are roadside assistance, some are dispatch. The job is to answer calmly when someone else is stressed. And the night shift often handles a different kind of rhythm, fewer calls but higher stakes when they come. And then there are data centers, the quiet beating heart behind screens and apps and cloud storage. They're not dramatic places usually, just rows of servers, controlled temperatures, backup power, alarms, monitoring dashboards. But they exist for one reason. The modern world expects its digital life to be available at any hour. So someone has to keep the machines cold, powered, secure, and continuously watched. These always-on places have something in common. The overnight economy isn't an afterthought for them. It's part of their identity. They don't switch to night mode so much as they continue, steadily, through the hours when the rest of the city changes shifts. Night staffing is a different kind of math. In many always-on places, the night shift runs with fewer people, but with higher responsibility and more coverage per person. That isn't because the work disappears at night. It's because the work changes shape. Some tasks slow down. Fewer customers, fewer visitors, fewer meetings, fewer routine requests. But the system still has to be ready for the moments when things spike. A patient arrives, an alarm goes off, a pipe bursts, a guest needs help, a server fails, a storm knocks out power. The night shift is often smaller, which means each person holds a wider piece of the building in their hands. In a hospital, that might mean fewer administrators and more essential clinical coverage, leaner teams, faster decisions, and a heavier reliance on protocols. In a hotel, it might mean one person at the front desk who is also watching cameras, handling late check-ins, and coordinating maintenance calls. In utilities, it can mean a skeleton crew monitoring systems with on-call teams ready to deploy if something breaks. In a data center, it might be a small group of technicians responsible for entire rooms of equipment, where a single mistake can ripple outward quickly. So the night shift often operates with a particular kind of calm vigilance. Less chatter, fewer layers, fewer people to hand something off to. When you have fewer staff, you can't rely on sheer numbers. You rely on readiness, clear checklists, well-practiced routines, and the ability to stay composed when something unusual happens. And there's a subtle psychological weight to this. During the day, help feels nearby. There are more people in the building, more departments open, more managers present, more someone else to call. At night, you may be the someone else. So the math becomes fewer people, more trust, less redundancy, more responsibility, wider coverage, tighter focus. And if the night shift does it well, the morning never feels how close things sometimes are to breaking. Everything just continues, like it was always supposed to. Readiness has a cost, even when nothing happens, especially when nothing happens. Because to be ready, you have to pay for capacity that may sit unused until the moment it's needed. And that's one of the stranger expenses in the always-on world. You're spending money to maintain the ability to respond. A hospital keeps beds available. It staffs nurses and doctors through the night. It keeps equipment powered, sterilized, checked, and waiting. Most of the time, the room might look quiet. The hallway might feel calm. But that calm is expensive because it's supported by a system that can surge on short notice. A hotel pays for a front desk to be open when the lobby is empty. It keeps security watching when the doors are locked. It maintains lighting, heating, and maintenance coverage, even if only a few guests are awake. The building can't become closed just because the hour is late, because a guest with a problem doesn't experience their problem on a schedule. Utilities and data centers are built around readiness almost entirely. They invest in redundancy, backup systems, spare parts, extra capacity, monitoring tools, on-call crews, because the cost of failure is bigger than the cost of preparedness. You don't want to discover you needed a backup generator after the power is already gone. This is what readiness really means, paying for insurance in the form of people, equipment, and slack in the system. Slack is a word that sounds wasteful, but it's often what keeps systems resilient. If a system is run at 100% capacity all the time, it has no room to absorb surprise. A single spike, an accident, a storm, a sudden rush can push it into failure. So always-on places maintain a little extra staffing, extra electricity capacity, extra bandwidth, extra supplies. And to someone watching from the outside, it can look inefficient. Why is someone sitting at a desk at 3 a.m.? Why keep a crew on call when the night seems quiet? Why have machines running just in case? But that just in case is the product. Readiness is the ability to handle the moment when the calm breaks. And because the moment might not arrive tonight, or might arrive 3 minutes from now, the system has to hold itself in a steady state, prepared, awake, and waiting. So the cost of readiness is the cost of being able to say, quietly and confidently, we can handle it. Even if, for most of the night, nothing asks you to prove it. Security is one of the purest examples of an invisible service, because the value is felt most when nothing happens. A good security guard doesn't create a story. A good camera system doesn't make the news. A well-lit parking lot doesn't announce itself as protected. The whole point is prevention. Quiet, steady, uncelebrated prevention. In always-on places, security becomes a kind of reassurance you don't always notice in the moment. At a hospital, it can mean controlled entrances at night, calm responses to tense situations, someone quietly watching the flow of people to make sure patients and staff are safe. At a hotel, it can be a presence in the lobby, camera monitoring, door checks, a sense that someone is awake and paying attention while guests sleep. In a data center, it's strict access controls, ID checks, logs, locked cages, security built into the building itself, because the assets are invisible and valuable. And in many spaces, security is also environmental. Lighting, sightlines, locked doors that work, alarms that are tested, a routine patrol that makes the place feel less abandoned. This is part of the overnight economy's larger promise. The world will still be intact when morning comes. Security is a service you buy so you can forget about it. It lowers anxiety. It reduces risk. It helps people relax, move normally, sleep normally. Even if you never speak to a guard, even if you never look at a camera, the knowledge that someone is watching can change how safe a place feels. And it's strange, because the better security is, the less visible it becomes. When security works, you don't get a dramatic success moment. You get an ordinary night, a quiet lobby, a peaceful hallway, a parking lot without incident. That ordinariness is the outcome. So in a way, security is a business of calm. It's paid attention, it's readiness, it's routines that prevent small problems from becoming large ones. And when everything goes smoothly, the night passes with no story to tell, just the quiet feeling that you were protected by someone else's wakefulness. When you talk about the overnight economy, it's easy to focus on systems, warehouses, schedules, maintenance windows. But the night shift is held together by people. And people have reasons. Some choose nights for the pay. Many jobs offer a shift differential, an extra amount per hour, because night work asks more of your body and your life. The hours are harder on sleep. The schedule can feel socially isolating. Weekends and holidays can blur, so the pay bump becomes a practical trade. You take the inconvenience, and the job gives you a little extra money to make it worthwhile. Some choose nights for childcare. This is one of the quiet, common reasons that doesn't get talked about much. If one parent works days and the other works nights, they can sometimes cover childcare without paying for full-time daycare. It's not easy, because it can mean passing each other like ships, trading the kids in the doorway, living in overlapping exhaustion. But for some families, it's the only way the math works. The night shift becomes a strategy, not a preference. Some choose nights because they're working a second job. The overnight shift can fit into a life that already has obligations during the day. Another job, school, caregiving, or a business they're trying to build. Nights become the extra hours where they can earn more, pay down debt, or stay afloat. In that sense, the overnight economy isn't just a system that serves daytime life. It's also a system that people use to stabilize their own, and some choose nights because they genuinely prefer the quiet. There are people who work better when the world calms down. Fewer conversations, fewer interruptions, less noise, less performance. Night work can feel focused and honest. Just you, the task, and the steady rhythm of doing it. For some, it's not lonely. It's peaceful. And in many cases, it's a mix of all of these. A little more money. A schedule that fits the kids. A way to stack income. A preference for calm. A job opening that happened to be nights when they needed work. So the reasons aren't always dramatic. They're often practical. The night shift is where the city's hidden promises get kept, but it's also where a lot of people quietly make their own lives work, one shift at a time. And even when the reasons are practical, there's a human cost to living on the other side of the clock. The first cost is sleep. Not just getting less sleep, but sleeping at the wrong time for how most bodies are built. Daylight leaks around the curtains. The neighborhood makes daytime noise. The phone buzzes. A delivery truck arrives. Someone knocks. Even if you're exhausted, it's harder to sink into deep rest when the world outside is moving. So night shift sleep can become lighter, more fragile, something you protect carefully, like a candle in a drafty room. And because sleep is the foundation under everything else, mood, focus, appetite, patience, when it's disrupted, the disruption spreads. People can feel worn down in ways that are hard to explain to someone who sleeps at night. Not always dramatic, more like a quiet fraying at the edges. Then there's social isolation. Most of the world is built around daytime life. Friends make plans after work. Families eat dinner together. Events happen on weekends in the middle of the day. If you work nights, your evenings might be when everyone else is asleep. Your mornings might be when the city is rushing. You can start to feel slightly out of phase with other people, like you're living a few hours to the side of the shared schedule. Even when you have people who love you, the overlap gets smaller. You can miss birthdays, barbecues, school events, simple moments like sitting on a couch at the same time. And over time, that can make life feel narrower, not because you don't care, but because the calendar doesn't line up. And there are health impacts too, gently, gradually, in the background. Night work can change eating patterns. People end up snacking at odd hours, relying on vending machines or whatever is open, drinking more caffeine than they want just to stay alert. Movement can drop because the day is spent recovering. Sunlight becomes something you accidentally miss. The body can feel like it's always adjusting, always trying to decide whether it's day or night. None of this means night work is impossible or always miserable. Many people adapt. Many people find routines that protect them. Strict sleep schedules, blackout curtains, quiet mornings, careful meals, a walk outside before bed, a firm boundary around rest. But the cost is real enough that it needs to be named, softly, because the overnight economy depends on people who are willing to carry that cost. They keep the city's promises. And the city, most of the time, doesn't notice what it asked from them, because the proof of their effort is that everything looks normal by morning. And still, despite the hard hours, despite the strange sleep, despite the feeling of living slightly out of phase, many night shift workers carry a quiet pride, because there's a particular satisfaction in a smooth morning. Not the kind of satisfaction that comes from applause or recognition or a good job said out loud. A different kind, a sense of craft. If you work nights, you start to understand that readiness isn't an accident. It's something you build. And building it well can feel like making a bed so neatly that the room looks calmer, or washing a window so clean it disappears. The best night work leaves no trace. A store opens and the shelves are faced, gaps filled, dates rotated. A lobby smells neutral and looks calm. A hallway shines softly because it was waxed hours ago. The elevator works. The trash is gone. The coffee station is stocked. The emergency equipment has been checked and signed off. The site is running with no alerts. Nothing announces itself. There's no spotlight, but the world feels ready. That ready feeling is the product of craft, knowing the order of tasks, understanding what matters most, noticing small problems before they become big ones, and doing the work in a way that doesn't create new problems. It's discipline, repetition, and attention to detail, done when most people aren't watching, and that can be deeply satisfying. Because the morning rush is a kind of test you don't take in person. You go home before the crowds arrive. You don't see the customers. You don't watch the building fill up. But you can imagine it. You can picture people moving through the space without friction, grabbing what they need, walking through clean halls, using working systems, never stopping to ask why it's so smooth. That's the pride, to leave behind a place that works, to do essential labor and erase the evidence, to hand the city back to the day with the quiet confidence of someone who knows we did our part. And if nobody notices, that doesn't always feel like being ignored. Sometimes it feels like proof that the craft was done right. And there's a line we can return to throughout the episode, like a small refrain. They hand the city back to the day. Because that's what the night shift really does. They take the city when it's quieter, when it's thinner, when the streets have more space between cars and the buildings have more space between footsteps. They take it in its unfinished state, after the mess of the day, after the wear and tear, after the little failures and the small disorder, and then task by task, they put it back into shape. They refill what was emptied. They clean what was used. They repair what was strained. They check what could fail. They restock what will be needed. They reset the rooms and the systems and the shelves and the schedules. Not in one dramatic motion, in 100 quiet ones. And when the first morning workers arrive, when the first doors open, when the lights brighten, when the first coffee brews and the first deliveries are received, the night shift is often already slipping away, heading home, turning off their own alarms, pulling down the curtains, trying to find sleep in a world that's waking up. The day shift inherits a city that looks calm and ready. That calm isn't automatic. It was handed over. So when we circle back to this thought, when we say it again, softly, it's not a slogan. It's a description of a real handoff that happens every single day. They hand the city back to the day. By the time you reach the business model of overnight work, the pattern becomes clear. The product is rarely the task itself. The product is reliability, not cleaning, but always clean by open, not delivery, but stocked before the first customer arrives, not maintenance, but no breakdown during peak hours. Overnight work is often sold the way people sell peace of mind, through outcomes, not effort. A business doesn't usually want to buy a mop stroke or a checklist or an hour of sweeping. It wants to buy a morning that feels ready. It wants to open the doors without embarrassment. It wants the lobby to look calm, the shelves to look full, the bathrooms to feel usable, the equipment to run, the lights to come on, the place to look like it's under control. So the contract is shaped around a promise. Always clean by open is a perfect example because it contains everything the buyer cares about. Always means consistency, not a good day once in a while. Clean means the result must be visible and felt, no shortcuts that show up later. By open means the timing matters as much as the quality. That's the overnight economy in one sentence, quality delivered inside a strict window. And the reason this becomes a business model is that reliability is worth paying for. People build habits around it. Customers return when a place feels dependable. Employees work better when the environment is predictable. Operations run smoother when the basics are handled without constant firefighting. In other words, reliability reduces friction, and friction is expensive. Every time something isn't ready, every time a store opens with a mess, every time an escalator is down, every time a shelf is empty, every time a restroom is unstocked, the business pays in little ways. Lost time, lost sales, staff stress, customer annoyance, bad reviews, increased risk. So overnight services often sell something that sounds almost too simple. We will make sure the basics are handled before anyone arrives. And if they do it well, the customer never thinks, wow, look at that reliable infrastructure. They just feel normal, which is exactly what the business wanted to buy. A lot of overnight work is held together by something that sounds corporate, but is actually very simple, a service-level agreement. A service-level agreement, an SLA, is just a promise written down. It takes a vague idea like, keep this place clean, or keep this system running, and turns it into something measurable. What will be done, how well it will be done, and when it must be done by. In plain language, SLAs usually contain three things: times, when the service happens, and what on time means. Floors cleaned between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. Restrooms checked every 2 hours. System updates completed before 4 a.m. Snow removal begins within X minutes of accumulation. In overnight work, timing is often the whole point, because the service is meant to happen before the morning rush. Standards. What good looks like. Not in poetry, in checkboxes. Which rooms, which surfaces, which equipment. What counts as clean, safe, operational, stocked, available. Sometimes it's detailed down to specific supplies: paper towels filled, soap dispensers working, trash removed, mirrors wiped, floors dry, entryways clear. Standards also create consistency across different workers and different nights. They keep the work from becoming whatever the person feels like doing and turn it into a repeatable result. Penalties. What happens if the promise isn't kept? This is the part people don't like to talk about, but it's what makes the agreement real. If a cleaning crew misses a standard, the client might deduct money, require a redo, or document the miss as a strike. If a delivery service misses a window, there may be fees. If a system provider fails uptime targets, there might be credits or contract consequences. Penalties aren't always about punishment. Often they're about alignment. They tell everyone clearly what matters most. They make reliability enforceable. And that's why SLAs are so common in the overnight economy. Because overnight work isn't just labor, it's a dependency. The day shift depends on it. Customers depend on it. Other vendors depend on it. A store can't run smoothly if the shelves weren't stocked. A hospital can't function if systems aren't maintained. A hotel can't promise comfort if cleaning isn't consistent. So the agreement makes the invisible visible. It turns "trust us" into "here is exactly what we will do." And in a world that runs on handoffs, night to day, back room to front door, those written promises are one of the quiet ways businesses keep the city's morning feeling effortless. Overnight work often wins the way many boring businesses win, on margin and efficiency. Not by being flashy, not by charging premium prices, but by doing a lot of necessary work quietly, quickly, and predictably, so the cost per task stays low and the outcomes stay consistent. A big part of overnight efficiency is simply the environment. When there are fewer people around, work moves faster. There's less waiting, less navigating, less interruption. A cleaning crew can move through a building in a clean sequence instead of constantly pausing to let someone pass. A stocking crew can fill aisles without negotiating with shoppers. A maintenance team can open panels, block off areas, and test systems without turning it into a public event. That uninterrupted flow creates a kind of hidden productivity boost. The same crew can complete more work in the same hours, or complete the same work with fewer hours. And in businesses where labor is the largest cost, that difference is the margin. But efficiency isn't only people are gone, so it's faster. It's also about how overnight work is designed. Overnight operations are built for repetition. The tasks are standardized, the routes are mapped, the checklists are known, the tools are staged, the supplies are placed where they'll be needed. When you do the same type of work every night, you learn the building like a musician learns a song. Where the pauses are, where the hard parts are, where you can save time without losing quality. That's why so much overnight work gets measured. Time per room, time per aisle, time per delivery stop, time to restore a system. Uptime hours and downtime minutes, rework rates and inspection scores. Those measurements sound cold, but they're often the reason the service stays affordable. If you can do the job with fewer wasted steps, you can charge a price the client will pay and still leave room for profit. And quietly is part of the efficiency too. Quiet work is work that doesn't create extra problems. A crew that cleans without leaving wet floors at opening time, that stocks without making a mess, that repairs without triggering new failures, saves the client from dealing with second-order chaos. Rework is expensive, complaints are expensive, emergency fixes are expensive. So a big part of margin is simply avoiding rework. That's the overnight advantage: high output, low drama. It's not a business model built around attention. It's built around the opposite, getting the job done in a way that doesn't demand anyone's attention later. So when overnight work is run well, it produces a morning that feels smooth. And it produces that smoothness with a kind of quiet speed that's hard to notice unless you stop and look. That quiet speed, paired with repeatable routines, is where the margin lives. There's a strange advantage built into overnight work that doesn't sound like an advantage at first. Boredom. Not the miserable kind. The calm kind. The kind that comes from doing the same tasks in the same order, with fewer surprises, night after night. In many businesses, boredom is treated like the enemy. People want variety, they want excitement, they want novelty. But in operations, especially overnight operations, calm repetition can be a form of safety. And safety in business often turns into money saved. Because calm repetition reduces mistakes. When a job is done the same way every time, your hands learn it. Your eyes learn what normal looks like. You notice when something is slightly off: a missing label, a strange sound, an unusual smell, a shelf that looks wrong, a machine that vibrates differently than yesterday. Repetition builds a quiet sensitivity. It turns workers into early warning systems. Compare that to a chaotic environment: constant interruptions, last-minute changes, people stepping into your workspace, shifting priorities, noise, urgency. In chaos, even smart people make dumb mistakes. They forget steps, they misplace items, they skip checks, they rush, and then the system pays for it later, through rework, waste, spoilage, damage, customer complaints, or downtime. Overnight work, at its best, is designed to be less chaotic. The building is quieter, the tasks are known, the checklist is stable, the route is familiar. Fewer interruptions means fewer context switches, and fewer context switches means fewer errors. And fewer errors stabilizes cost. That's the real economics of boredom. Predictability makes budgeting possible. When a cleaning contract produces the same result every morning, the client can stop worrying about it. When deliveries arrive on the same schedule, staffing can be planned. When preventive maintenance happens regularly, breakdowns become rarer and less severe. The business spends less time in emergency mode, where everything costs more. Rush shipping, overtime, last-minute contractor calls, lost revenue from downtime. In other words, calm repetition is how you convert surprise into routine, and routine is cheaper. This is one reason boring businesses can be so durable. They don't rely on hype, they rely on steady execution. They make money by doing ordinary tasks reliably, without drama, for a long time. So boredom, again, the calm kind, is not a lack of value. It's a sign that the system is working. It means the work is predictable enough that people can do it well, measure it, improve it, and repeat it without burning the whole place down. In the overnight economy, that's often the goal: not excitement, but steadiness. A quiet rhythm that keeps costs stable, reduces mistakes, and hands the city back to the day looking effortless. If you notice your attention drifting, that's okay. This is one of those episodes that can be listened to in pieces, like passing streetlights through a window. You don't have to hold every detail. You don't have to track every thread to the end. You can let the words come closer for a moment, and then soften again. Sometimes the mind does that naturally at night. It tests the edges of sleep. It loosens its grip on the need to follow. It slips in and out of focus the way a quiet room slips in and out of silence. Never fully silent, just calmer. So if you've faded out, if you're not sure what you missed, there's no need to rewind. The overnight economy doesn't require perfect attention. These systems are designed to run whether anyone is watching or not. That's part of their strange comfort. The city has its routines. The night shift has its checklists. The machines have their maintenance windows. The shelves refill. The floors get cleaned. The lights come on at the same hour. And the voice here can be like a night train of ideas. Steady. Low pressure. A slow rhythm you don't have to control. A train doesn't demand that you steer it. It just moves. You can watch the scenery when you want to, and close your eyes when you don't. So take whatever parts you catch, and let the rest pass by. And if you missed a part, that's fine. The city won't mind. Dawn doesn't arrive all at once. It comes in small signals, like the city is quietly testing the morning before it commits to it. A few lights shift first, street lights that look slightly less bright as the sky lightens behind them. Window glow changes color. The darkness thins. In some buildings, timers click and the lighting becomes a little more certain, a little more awake. Then the doors begin to unlock. Not all at once. One here, one there. A side entrance, a lobby door, a loading bay that opens for the last delivery, a security gate that slides back into its daytime position. You can feel the city opening its eyes. Coffee starts somewhere long before most people taste it. A machine warms up. Water heats. A pot fills. The smell begins to travel, soft and familiar, a signal that routines are returning. In break rooms, in convenience stores, in hospital stations, in hotel lobbies, coffee becomes one of the first signs that the night is ending. And as those signals appear, the overnight work begins to vanish. Carts are rolled away, supplies are put back, tools are packed up, checklists are signed. The last small fixes are made, the kind that make a place feel ready without anyone being able to explain why. It's a quiet handoff, a city being placed back into the hands of the day shift, just in time. And if everything went well, the morning will feel simple. Not because it is simple, but because someone spent the night making it look that way. And there's a kind of gratitude that fits this story best. Not loud gratitude, not a speech, just a quiet noticing. Because the world looks simple in the morning, only because someone made it that way. Somebody stocked the shelf you reach toward without thinking. Somebody cleaned the hallway you walk down half awake. Somebody checked the machine so it wouldn't fail at the worst moment. Somebody filled the soap dispenser, replaced the paper towels, emptied the bins, wiped the counters, reset the space. Somebody drove the truck while the roads were empty. Somebody watched the cameras while the building slept. Somebody answered the phone at 3 a.m. when a stranger needed help. Somebody kept the lights on, the air steady, the systems running, the doors ready to open. Most of that work doesn't get noticed. It isn't designed to. It's designed to disappear into normal life so the morning can feel smooth, so the day can begin without friction, so you can step into your routine and believe for a moment that the world is simply ready. So if this episode has any message at all, it's a gentle one. Look at the calm around you and remember it was built. And somewhere while you were sleeping, someone was awake, doing ordinary work with enough care that you didn't have to think about it. That's worth a quiet kind of thanks. If you enjoyed this quiet walk through the overnight economy, you can like the video or subscribe to Gentle Economics if it feels right. This channel is a place for calm, low-stakes documentaries about ordinary systems, work that rarely gets credit, businesses that run on routine, and the quiet infrastructure underneath daily life. New episodes will keep coming, gently, one at a time. And if you'd like to help the channel in a simple way, you can leave a comment. You don't have to write much. Just a word or two is enough. You could tell me where you're listening from, or what kind of sleep documentary you'd want next. Trains, libraries, overnight work, vending machines, anything like that. Comments help these videos find the people who need something soft and steady at night. But for now, there's nothing else you need to do. Let the night finish its work. Let the morning arrive whenever it arrives. And for now, good night.
fading, coffee starts to breathe. Keys in the door, soft dawn on the street. Floors are quiet, shelves are standing tall, like the night was never here at all. But somewhere in the dark, a steady rhythm ran, careful hands and small plans. This is gentle economics, moving slow. The overnight economy, soft glow. No applause, no headlines, no noise, just the world made ready by unseen choices. So rest your mind, let the morning come. They hand the city back one by one. Trucks roll early, radios low, hallways clean where the late wind blows. A checklist signed, a light switched off, a quiet wind that never shows. And if you missed a part, that's fine with me. The city won't mind. Just breathe. This is gentle economics, moving slow. The overnight economy, soft glow. No applause, no headlines, no noise, just the world made ready by unseen choices. So rest your mind, let the morning come. They hand the city back one by one. Sleep like a station after the last train. Let the thoughts fall away like gentle rain. What's held together doesn't need to shout, it just keeps working when the lights go out. This is gentle economics, warm and low. The overnight economy, steady flow. If this felt like home, you can stay a while. Leave a small comment, just a simple smile. Now the night can close and the day can rise. And for now, good night. Street lights fading, coffee starts to breathe. Keys in the door, soft dawn on the street. Floors are quiet, shelves are standing tall, like the night was never here at all. But somewhere in the dark, a steady rhythm ran, careful hands and small plans. This is gentle economics. economy, steady flow. If this felt like home, you can stay a while. Leave a small comment, just a simple smile. Now the night can close and the day can rise. And for now, good night.